everybody and welcome to Rocco Baby Crochet. I hope you're all well and having a great week. This quick tutorial we're going to be learning the corded ridge stitch. Now this is a beautiful stitch. I have actually used it in a pattern in my Love Rocks blanket. Speaking of rocks, you can just make out his little paw here. He's helping me film this afternoon, which just reminds me, if you do see any little cat hairs floating about, these stitch tutorials, the yarn I use are just for these stitch tutorials. I don't use them for anything else. So back to the stitch. So this stitch is a beautiful texture. It's comprised mainly of double crochet, treble crochet and slip stitch. So if you can do those 3 stitches, you will be fine. If not, I'll link below in the description to this tutorial my videos that cover those stitches. Take a look if you need a little bit more support and then come back to us when you feel confident for this stitch. It's an easy 2-row repeat. We're just going to be repeating rows 2 and 3 over and over until your project is the size that you want it to be at. The yarn that I've used in today's tutorial is Stylecraft Special Chunky in the colour Watermelon and a 6mm crochet hook. Any yarn that you want to use with the recommended hook size will be fine for this stitch. So grab your hooks, grab your yarn, grab a cuppa and let's learn this stitch together. To begin, because this stitch is worked in rows, you're going to want to make a slip knot and pop that onto your hook. And the foundation chain for this stitch can be as wide as you want it to be, so you're going to make a foundation chain to the width that you want your project to be. So you're just going to yarn over and pull through, yarn over and pull through, and keep chaining until you reach the width that you require for your project. So if you'd like to press pause until you've made your foundation chain and then come back to me and we'll move up to row 1 together. So once you've made your foundation chain, and I've just done a foundation chain here of 20 just to show you a small sample of this stitch, what you're going to want to do is chain an additional 3. 1, 2, 3. Now this counts as your first stitch, so it's going to count as a treble crochet. So your stitch count should always be 1 more than your original foundation chain, because we've added these chain 3s on here which count as your first stitch. So next you're going to work into your foundation chain. You're going to skip the first 3 chains, 1, 2, 3, and into the 4th one here you're going to place a treble crochet. You can work into the front of your chain if you prefer, if you feel more comfortable. I just prefer working into the back loops of the chain. So there's my first treble crochet, and then you're going to place 1 treble crochet in every chain across until you reach the very end. So if you want to pause the video while you make your way across, placing 1 treble crochet into every chain, and come back to me when you're ready to move up to row 2. I've just reached my very last chain and I'm placing my last treble crochet into there. And at the end of row 1 your work should look a little bit like this. Now for this stitch, the row repeats are rows 2 and 3, so we're just about to start the first of our row repeats. So to start row 2, we're going to begin by chaining 1, but we're not going to turn our work at this moment. We're going to be working back across, but in this direction, placing 1 reverse double crochet under every front loop only. You may also know that as the crab stitch. So the way that we do that is you're going to drop your hook down around the front of your work and then push your hook underneath from bottom to top through that front loop only. You'll then grab onto your yarn with your hook and pull up a loop. So you'll have 2 loops on your hook like you would for an ordinary double crochet, and you'll yarn over and pull through both loops. Then you'll move across to your next stitch, dropping your hook round the front and pushing underneath that front loop only from bottom to top, yarning over and pulling up a loop. 2 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through both of those loops. And we'll repeat that all the way across. So moving into the next stitch, dropping your hook around the front, pushing underneath that front loop, from bottom to top, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through both loops. So it does feel a little bit strange at first when you first start to do this stitch, but you soon get into the flow with it. It's just the opposite to what we're used to doing, isn't it? So if you want to make your way across, placing one crab stitch in every stitch along for row 2. Come back to me when you're coming up towards the end. Our last stitch is a little bit different, so press pause until you reach that point. We'll finish this row off and move up to row 3 together. I'm just coming up to the end of row 2, and as you can see I've got 2 trebles and my chain 3. Remember that this chain 3 counts as a stitch, so I'm just going to place reverse double crochets or crab stitches into each of those remaining trebles that I've got in row 1. And then into the chain 3 we just want to slip stitch, so we're not doing a crab stitch into that one. You're just going to insert your hook as you normally would into the top of that chain 3, and we're going to place a slip stitch. Now it is easiest to finish off this slip stitch if you leave your hook pointing towards the back and just pull that loop off with your hook facing in the opposite direction to what we normally would have it. To move up to row 3, and this is the second half of the row repeats, you're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Again, this chain 3 counts as a stitch. Once you've chained 3, if you turn your work slightly towards you, you should be able to see those back loops are visible that we haven't worked anything into yet. And into each of those back loops, we're going to place a treble crochet. You want to make sure your stitch count remains the same, so I'll have 21 stitches for mine, remembering I did a foundation chain of 20 and then added 3, which counts as my first stitch. So if you want to make your way across, placing 1 treble crochet in each of these back loops for row 3. Come back to me when you're just about ready to finish off. We can finish the row off together and have a little recap of this stitch. I've just reached my last 2 stitches of row 3, and you want to be a little bit careful. Sometimes this very last back loop can look a little bit smaller than the others, which is why I said earlier, make sure you keep count of your stitches to make sure that your rows are all the same stitch count, keeping your edges nice and straight. If you do struggle a little bit with finding that last stitch, then it may be an idea to grab a stitch marker, which will make it just that little bit easier for you to recognise that last back loop. So a little recap of this stitch for you. You're going to be repeating rows 2 and 3. This video is all time stamped for you. If you do need any refreshers on the 2 rows, make the most of those along the bottom of this video. Row 2, where you're going to be placing 1 reverse double crochet all the way across, and row 3 is a row of treble crochets. If you have enjoyed this tutorial and don't want to miss out on my next one, then please don't forget to subscribe. It will also really help support the channel as well. If you've got any questions about this stitch which I haven't covered in this tutorial, drop me a comment in the comment box and I'll do my best to answer them all. Or if you want to join us over on the Facebook group, I am about on there most days, so you can also always put a question on there for me as well. So I hope you all have a great week. Take care, happy hooking, and have lots of fun with this stitch. Bye!